Good morning. Today we'll have a seminar on bond management, and Professor Subor Maiti will take us through this presentation. So I request Dr. Nitesh Pradhan, who is a first-year junior resident at MR Bangalore Hospital, to start the proceeding with discussion on pathophysiology of bonds. Nitesh, please. না দেখা করেনি, আমি মেসেজ করেছি, দুবার মেসেজ করেছি, রিপ্লাই দেয়নি। ক্লাস শুরু হচ্ছে না, উত্তর দেয়নি এবারে। ক্লাস শুরু হচ্ছে, পরে কথা হবে, ক্লাস করে। Yes, start.
Good morning, respected teachers and all. My name is Dr. Nitesh Pradhan, first year in PGT, MR Bangalore Hospital. Start with definition. Burns are the wound produced by the various kind of agents that causes the cutaneous injury and destruction of underlying tissue. Pathophysiology. First with local changes. That thermal injury causes coagulative necrosis of epidermis and underlying tissues. Depth of injury depends on the specific heat of agent and the duration of exposure. The area of cutaneous injury are being divided into 3 zones and classified as Jackson's Burns zone. The first is zone of coagulation, where the necrotic area with cellular depression, in that irreversible tissue damage. Second is zone of stasis, where the moderate insult will decrease tissue perfusion and can survive or go on to the coagulative necrosis depending upon wound environment. Zone of hyperemia. This zone contains viable tissues which are not at risk for the further necrosis. Then burn wound edema. It is it shows biphasic pattern. In first hour, immediate and rapid increase in edema, and in 12-24 hours there is gradual increase in edema. Non-burn wound edema mechanism is loss of capillary endothelial integrity and increase in interstitial oncotic pressure. Now, inflammatory and circulatory changes in burn injury. In burn injury to the skin, there is inflammatory and coagulation cascade started. Release of various inflammatory mediators like histamine, arachidonic acid, cytokines, complement activation, which leads to increased vascular permeability and edema formation. That will lead to increased tissue pressure and can lead to compartment syndrome. Also, there is decrease in intravascular volume, electrolytes, and pH imbalance. That will lead to decreased blood flow to skin, kidney, and gastrointestinal tract. Increased vascular permeability increases the blood viscosity. Also, loss of intraplasma volume lead to decrease in cardiac output, which decreases oxygenation and the vital to the tissues and the vital organs, and ultimately lead to multi-organ dysfunctions. Systemic effect of the severe burns are vascular permeability and edema, altered hemodynamics, hypermetabolism, increased gut mucosal permeability, decreased renal blood flow, and immunosuppression. Start with hemodynamic consequences, which is a decreased cardiac output, increased systemic vascular resistance, and organ ischemia, myocardial dysfunction. Renal changes, decreased cardiac output, and stress-induced hormone like catecholamine, cortisol, toxins from the wound can lead to decreased renal blood flow and decreased GFR. And that lead to oliguria and renal failure. GI changes, shock, hypovolemia lead to ischemia of the gastrointestinal mucosa and mucosal atrophy. Also reduce the gut motility that lead to decreased absorption, increased intestinal permeability, translocation of bacteria, and ultimately to septicemia. Also, there is a patient tends to develop curling ulcer, paralytic ileus, and abdominal compartment syndrome. Changes in the immune system, there is a global depression in the immune system, decreased production of macrophages, impaired cytotoxic T cell activity, which increases the risk for further infection, depressed T helper cell function, hypermetabolic responses. Hypermetabolic responses is a timely phenomenon which are being shows two distinct patterns. Phase 1 ab phase, which is first 48 hours, and there is a decrease in cardiac output, urine output, oxygen consumption, and basal metabolic rate. Impaired glucose tolerance with hyperglycemia. Metabolic variables gradually increases within first 5 days post-injury reach plateau. Phase 2, that is flow phase. It is hypermetabolic state, which is indicated by persistent increase in urine cortisol, serum catecholamine, basal energy expenditure, serum increase in serum cytokines. It is also hyperdynamic state where cardiac output is increased and insulin resistance, negative nitrogen balance, and this phase can persist up to 3 years. Now, injury to airway and the lungs. Burn injury above the larynx. The heat can physically burn structure above the larynx, and that lead to laryngeal edema and obstruction to the airway. Burn injury below the larynx. Thermal damage to the lower airway lead to respiratory epithelium rapidly swells and detaches from the bronchial tree. That lead to formation of cast. And that will obstruct to the airway, and it is good culture media for infection, and that lead to pneumonia, sepsis, and death. Inhalational injury. Inhalational injury is a minor particle within the thick smoke enters the alveoli, lead to intense reaction in the alveolar lining, and that will lead to chemical pneumonitis. Further, that will lead to ARDS, pneumonia, and respiratory failure. Metabolic poisoning. 80% of the fire-related deaths are due to the inhalation of toxic gases and its synergistic effect. Agents such as carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanides, nitric oxide, aldehydes, and nitrogen, which are released from wood and kerosene. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, it is the most frequent cause of death in the smoke-induced inhalational injury. Mechanism is hemoglobin affinity to carbon monoxide is 240 times that of the oxygen, and therefore block the transport of oxygen. If the concentration is more than 10%, can lead to headache, dizziness, weakness, and syncope. If it is more than 60%, can lead to coma, convulsion, and possibly death. And at 90 to 100%, death in a minute. Hydrogen cyanide metabolic acidosis can occur by interfering the mitochondrial respiration. Causes of death in severe burn are hypovolemia and shock, renal failure, acute respiratory distress syndrome, septicemia, multi-organ failure, and acute airway block in head and the neck. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitesh. Very, very nicely you have presented your part, that is pathophysiology. You have covered almost everything, that is the changes in the different system in the body, including the metabolic and the immunological part of the patient. Really wonderfully present. And now, what are the effects of burns where the pathophysiology, where the actually physiological milieu is already changed? For example, in pregnancy. In pregnancy, the physiological status of the patient is already changed. In that situation, what is your comment? How will you think that how burn can affect?
Pregnancy, like metabolic states are already in the exaggerated form.
Okay, so that is all the effects of the burns, particularly the metabolism and the proneness to infection, all these things will increase, and that will cause not only the changes in the mother but also in the fetus. Okay, so that is also a consideration. What are the changes? And another thing, how the other types of burns other than the flame burns, the electric burns or the cold burns, is there any difference in the local pathological changes or pathophysiological changes in the local area of burns other than the systemic effects? Nitesh?
Chemical burn or electrical burn injury, there may be a colligative necrosis.
And I want to mean that the area which is apparent from the surface, that is the depth of tissue effect or the injury is much more, and the manifestation will be late. So the necrosis which happens to the tissue may not be manifested in the earlier part, but it progresses very slowly sometimes, and it affects is sometimes less. And you should mention also the special effect of the electricity on the burn patient. Particularly you have mentioned the cardiological effect, but you should give the special reference of electricity on the body along with the burns. Okay, so these things I like to comment. Dr. Professor Saha, please.
Yeah. Another important part is you mentioned sepsis, but there is a definite incidence of infection of the burn wounds. Initially, the burn wound is sterile at the time of the burn because of the heat, but afterwards there is bacterial contamination, and if you see this spectra of bacterial contamination, is primarily the staph infection because from the and then this infection may be either local or it may be a systemic sepsis. So you should have touched the little part about the infection in burn wounds. That is one of the important factors for burn outcome. Okay. I think
Nitesh, another thing you have rightly mentioned the effect of burns on the bacterial flora, normal commensals in the intestine, and we should also remember that the burns, the pathological changes which happens in the body, and when the patient starts getting the treatment, then the effects also has a synergistic effect of burns as well as the treatment on the system, particularly GI system and other system. The bacterial flora are affected much more, not only by the burns itself, but also by the treatment of antibiotics. Okay, thank you, wonderful. You have presented the part very nicely. I think your presentation will be very immensely helpful to the postgraduates for the preparation in the exam and their presentation. Thank you. Wonderful.
So the next topic will be classification, types of burn injuries, and immediate management. That is primarily the fluid management in burns by Dr. Revant, who is a junior resident at Imambara District Hospital. Dr. Revant, you are online?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is my screen being shared?
No, it's not visible, Dr. Revant. I've allowed for screen share. Can you check once more?
Is it being shared?
Yes. Just
Okay.
click on the presentation.
Okay. Good morning, all. My topic is good morning, all. Myself, Dr. Revant Khapre from Imambara District Hospital, and my topic today is burn classification types and immediate management. Burn is being classified into on two bases. First, on the basis of causes, for example, flame, scald, contact burn, chemical burn, electricity. Flame is like from damage from superheated or oxidized air. Scald is damage from contact with hot liquids, and contact burn is damage from contact with hot and solid materials. Chemicals, example, noxious chemicals, and electricity due to conduction of electricity current through tissues. These are the photos from left upper. You can see normal burn from flame. Then on the middle, the child is an example of scald bone. Then right upper, it's contact burn. Left down, it's example of acid burn. And on the right down, it's an example of electrical burn, entry and exit on both. Now it has been classified on the basis of depth. For first, it's first degree injured, localized. The injury is localized to the epidermis only. Then superficial second degree burn, injury to the epidermis and the superficial dermis. Deep second degree, injury through epidermis and deep into the dermis. Third degree is full thickness injury through the epidermis and dermis into the subcutaneous fat. And the fourth degree is injury to the skin and the subcutaneous fat and to the underlying muscle or bone. This is the picture of that. First degree, it's still epidermis. Burn depth. First degree, these are painful. These are painful and erythematous and blanch to touch with an intact epidermal barrier. These do not lead to any scarring. In second degree, superficial dermal burns are erythematous and painful to touch and often blister. They spontaneously reepithelize from retained epidermal structures in the rete regions, rete ridges, hair follicle and sweat glands in 1 to 2 weeks. Deep dermal burns into the reticulated dermis appear more pale and mottled, do not blanch on touch but remain painful to pinprick. They heal by 2 to 5 weeks. With reepithelialization, often severe scarring is present. Third degree, these are characterized by hard leathery scars that which are painless and black, white, or cherry red. Fourth degree, it involves other organs beneath the skin such as muscle, bone, and brain. This is how we estimate the burn size by using the rule of 9. And in children, we use two, a Burkow formula and another one is Lund and Browder. Immediate management of burn, pre-hospitalization care is stop the burning process, drop the fire, stop, drop, and roll is a good method of extinguishing. Cool the burn wound, this provide analgesia and slow the delayed microvascular damage which occur. Cooling should be minimum 1 to 2 hours, avoiding hypothermia. Give oxygen. Elevate sitting a patient up with the burned airway may prove life-saving. Elevation of burned limbs reduces swelling and discomfort. Check for other injuries. The standard ABC check followed by secondary survey patient. Burned in explosion may have head and spine injury and other life-threatening problems. Then hospital care, admit the patient, airway control, breathing, circulation, disability, exposure with the environmental control, fluid resuscitation, assess the percentage burn, degree and type of burn, keep the patient in a clean environment, sedation and proper analgesia. Now we'll start the management properly. Airway control, burned airway creates problem by swelling and can completely occlude the airway. Severe airway with an endotracheal tube until swelling subside, which is usually 48 hours. Delayed diagnosis of airway burn make difficult to patient in presence of laryngeal edema, so the intubate the cricothyroidectomy should be done. Intubation or cricothyroidectomy should be done. Early intubation of suspected airway burn is a treatment of choice in such patients. Breathing, a progressive increase in respiratory rate and effort, anxiety, rising pulse and confusion with decreased oxygen saturation. These symptoms take 24 to 5 days to appear. Treatment starts as soon as possible. Physiotherapy can be done. Nebulizer should be given. Warm humidified oxygen should be given. Fluid resuscitation, fluid IV resuscitation, volume must be maintained following a burn in order to provide sufficient circulation to perfuse not only the organs but also the peripheral tissues, especially damaged skin. IV resuscitation is appropriate for any child with burn greater than 10% and 15% of total body surface area for adults. If oral resuscitation is to be commenced, then water is given. Should not be salt free. It is appropriate to give oral rehydration with a solution such as diarrhea. Most common fluid used is Zinger lactate. Fluid volume is relatively constant in proportion to the area of body burned. Therefore, there are formula that can calculate it. The approximate volume of fluid needed for the patient of given body weight with given percentage of body burn formula to calculate 3 are there. Parkland regime is there. Evans formula is there. Muir and Barclay is there. Modified Brooke formula. The fluids which we use are crystalloid resuscitation. Ringer lactate is the most commonly crystalloid used. These are effective as colloids. These are as effective as colloids for maintaining the intravascular volume. and these are less expensive. In children, we use dextrosaline for maintenance. 100 ml per kg for 24 hours for the first 10 kg, 50 ml for 24 hours for next 10 kg, and 20 ml per kg for 24 hours for each kg above 20 kg body weight. Then hypertonic solution, hypertonic saline, it produces hyperosmolality and hypernatremia, reduces the shift of intracellular water to extracellular space. Advantages include less tissue asperatomist edema and a resultant decrease in intubations. Colloid resuscitation, plasma proteins are responsible for inward oncotic pressure that counteracts the outward capillary hydrostatic pressure. Without proteins, there will be edema. Protein should be given after first 24 hours of burn. Before this time, protein will leak out of the cell. And it is calculated by using Muir-Barclay formula, which is 0.5 into burn body surface percentage area into weight, which is first portion, and it is given in 4-4-4 or 6-6 or 12 hours respectively. One portion should be given in each period. Then we have to also monitor the resuscitation we are doing. The key to monitoring of resuscitation is urine output. Output should be between 0.5 ml to 1 ml per kg per hour. If urine output is below this, the infusion rate should be increased by 50%. If still the output is inadequate, then a bolus of 10 ml per kg should be given. 2 ml per kg per hour urine output signals decrease in rate of perfusion. Hematocrit measurement is a useful suspected and is useful in suspected under or overhydration. Then we come to burn wound dressing. Paraffin gauze can be used. Duoderm such as hydrocolloids such as duoderm can be used. Biological dressing, synthetic like BioBrain and natural amniotic membrane can be used. Full thickness and dermal burns need antibacterial dressing to delay the conalization. Open method prior to surgery. Silver sulfadiazine application without dressing commonly used in burns of face head. Closed method dressing done to soothe and then the skin to protect the wound to reduce the pain and as an adsorbent. The following are the topical agents which we use: silver sulfadiazine, mefenide acid, povidone iodine, silver nitrate, and cerium nitrate. We can in a patient circumferential full thickness burn, we are supposed to do
Immediate
escalator.
management.
Yes, sir. Immediate management.
Okay. Can you?
Circumferential full thickness burn to the limbs require emergency surgeries. The tourniquet effect of the surgery is easily treated by incising the whole length of the burn. This should be done in mid thickness axial line, avoiding major nerves. The burn needs to be cleaned, and the size and the depth needed to be full thickness burns, and the deep partial thickness burn will need to be dressed with antibacterial dressing to delay the onset of wound. Additional aspect we can use analgesia in form of oral or IV opiate. Energy balance is necessary first. Feeding should start within 6 hours of injury to reduce the gut mucosal damage. Burn patient need extra feeding. NG tube can be given to all the patients with burn over 15% of total body surface area and 10% in case of children. Burn injury is a catabolic in acute episode. Removing the burn and achieving the healing stops the catabolic drive. We are supposed to control the infection also by giving antibiotics. They have compromised local defenses in the lungs and the gut. Sterile precautions must be rigorous. Swab should be taken regularly. A rise in WBC due to thrombocytosis, increased catabolism are warnings of infection. Other non-thermal burns are electric burns, low tension injury and high tension injury. Low tension injury do not have enough energy to cause significant destruction. Entry and exit points normally in the fingers. They suffer small deep burns, may damage underlying nerves and vessels. AC current creates a tetany within the muscles, so the patient is unable to release the device until the power is turned off. It may interfere with normal cardiac pacing and cause cardiac arrest. High tension, there are 3 sources of damage: the flash, the current, the flame. When a high tension line is earthed, it can arc over the patient and causes a flash burn, extremely rapid heating of air because of the extremely rapid heating of the air, and causes explosion that propels the victim backward. It is always a major burn. There's a wound of entry and exit both. Major internal organs major internal organ injury and convulsion can develop. Management, we are supposed to check for ECG, USG abdomen, chest X-ray, NCCT head, cardiac enzyme analysis. Acidosis is common, so bicarbonate infusion is needed. Fractures and dislocations are common, so manage accordingly. They also release myoglobin because of renal failure, so mannitol can be given to treat renal tubular damage. Chemical burns, there are over 70,000 different chemicals in regular use within industry. Occasionally, these cause burn. There are two aspects of chemical injury: physical destruction to the skin and systemic absorption. The initial management of any chemical injuries is with copious water, but but most of them need to be removed physically. The more common injuries are caused by either acid or alkali. Management of alkali. Alkalis are more destructive and especially when come in contact with ice. Commonly used alkalis are sodium. They cause fat saponification, fluid head. For example, the examples of alkali are lime, bleach, and they release loss of alkali. I think I messed up somewhere. Alkali burn occur in oral cavity and esophagus, which leads to multiple strictures. After copious lavage, esophageal, and the next step is in the management of chemical injuries to identify the chemical of any end, its concentration, and to elucidate whether there is any underlying threat to the patient life if it is absorbed systematically. Acid burn occurs in skin, soft tissue, and GIT. In GIT, the burns affecting the fingers caused by dilute acid are relatively common. The initial management is with calcium gluconate gel, topically. Severe burns or burns to large area of the hand can be subsequently treated with bias block. It is common in consuming calcium either due to nitric acid or which may lead to severe gastritis or pyloric stenosis. Other acids are formic acid, hydrochloric acid. They cause metabolic acidosis, renal failure, ARDS, and acid hemolysis. Acidemia should be corrected with IV sodium bicarbonate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Riyang.
Yes, sir.
Your topic was so vast, three topic, a single presentation. It is very difficult to cover everything in this short time. But some comment I like to make, as we are usually being advised, regularly we are telling that please prepare the slides according to the format with which you have to prepare. Writing too many things in the slide is too bad to mention.
Okay. So next time I'll correct you.
Please do that.
Okay.
It looks very bad. And in the classification you have mentioned the classification different types, but in your slides later you have described, but in your the premier slides you have not mentioned about the cold injuries. Cold
Yes,
is also a cause for the burns.
It's a frostbite.
Yes, other things you have missed in your classification is the radiation burns. We commonly see the radiation type of dermatitis or radiation causing the burns of the skin, and you should mention also in the classification. In classification, you have to mention a special type of special or miscellaneous, and that includes the coal tar or asphalt, because that is a special type, that is neither flame nor chemical, that is a mixed type. So coal tar burns should be specially mentioned, and it needs the special management. In the assessment on evaluation of the patient, when you are describing the clinical examination or in the management, you should concentrate your mind not only by taking proper history and proper examination, you should concentrate on your mind not only on the burns itself, but you should take the history, what is the cause of, what is the nature of the burns, whether it is a suicidal or homicidal or accidental. That should be properly recorded. And if the condition of the patient is too bad, you should arrange for a dying declaration. That is also very essential part of a doctor to do. And in the assessment or evaluation, as I have mentioned, you should not concentrate only on the burns. You should also take care whether the patient is having other type of injuries. For example, during a burns in a big building, when the patient is coming down to the stair, or there is a fall of heavy object on the patient, that can cause head injury.
Yes,
there can be an abdominal injury, and or the cervical injuries, those things, the consciousness of the unconsciousness of a patient with burns may not be due to the shock only, that may be due to head injury or the other causes. So proper assessment is very very important. In all childbearing lady, you should also think that whether the lady is carrying or not. Associated pregnancy should be excluded, particularly if the patient is married and childbearing. And your fluid therapy, you have mentioned Parkland and your other Moore and Barclay formula.
More than that.
And you have placed Moore and Barclay under your title of colloid therapy. But that is not true. Moore and Barclay is for all. It is also for the crystalloid therapy. So that should be discussed in the earlier part of your presentation, not under the title of colloid treatment. Now tell me, suppose the patient is having 70% burns.
Yes,
So
sir.
what should be the Parkland formula or the Moore and Barkland formula? 70%
Pa-
burn.
Parkland formula, if considering the patient is 50 kg, then we'll multiply 4 into 70 into 50, which is this is 14 liters. Which is 14 liters.
Okay.
So in first 8 hours,
Okay.
we'll
So
use 7 liters.
Stop. What I like to, because time is short, what I like
Yes,
to
sir.
mention, if the patient is having a burns beyond 50%, okay, whatever may be the burns, it may be 60%, 70% or 100%, the consideration should be up to 50%. Okay, otherwise if you take 100% or 90%, you see that all the fluids which is in the store of the system, that will be utilized or that will be harmful to the patient. So maximum quota for the patient which is required for the improving the status is 50% of the burns.
Okay.
So calculate accordingly. Okay. Now
Yes.
indication of the colloid you have mentioned, and that is usually after
12 hours.
12, and sometimes it is considered after 24 hours. Okay. And you have not mentioned about the blood. Indication of blood transfusion in the burns patient. In the chronic burn injury, for example, if the patient is suffering for a long time with burns for several weeks, already
Yes.
there is development of anemia. Those patients obviously will need blood, will need blood. Okay. But even in the acute stage, within a week, if there is deep burn, when there is loss of many of the blood vessels, there is effect on the circulation on the blood cells. In the presence of deep burn, you may need blood transfusion even on the first 2 or 3 days of the trauma. Okay. And you have said that prior to surgery, the patient will need the
Analgesic.
antibiotics.
Antibiotic.
But that is not true. It is not always, you have in your slide it is mentioned prior to surgery. Okay,
Yes.
please correct the slides. It is
Okay.
not prior to surgery, it is needed for the burn patient. If the patient presents to you in a very early stage, then always prefer the aseptic dressing or sterile dressing. As the wound becomes old, then you have to depend on the systemic antibiotics as well as the local microbial agents. And as you have rightly made a classification of the local microbial agents, and the commonest agent is the, till now worldwide, is the, what is the common antibiotic microbial agent?
Silver nitrate. Silver
Not silver nitrate, silver
silver nitrate.
sulfur. And for the chemical burns, you have said
Water wash.
wash and wash. That is the most important, and that should be the simple water. Neither
Yes, a simple water. Tap water.
And neither it is alkali for acid or the acid for alkali. Never. Always it is
Tap
profuse
water.
amount of tap water. And another thing you must mention, that in case of caustic burns, never use water first, because caustic burn may cause harm if you add water, because there will be fluorescent, and if it is hydrofluoric acid, that can cause also the effervescence and raise
Further
rise
damage.
temperature. More temperature will occur. Now tell me, what would you do if it is a colder burn? Suppose a patient or man laborer when working on the street with coal tar, then there is lot of coal tar on the surface, And usually the temperature of a hot coal tar, which is used for road making or
Yes.
treatment of the roof of the building, is more than 150. It is more than 150 degrees centigrade Fahrenheit. Then what will you do? Have you got any patient seen?
No, sir, not yet. I haven't seen.
Okay, so what will you do? Coal tar problem is coal tar itself is hot, and that causes much damage than the skin to the surface skin, and on the other way it sticks to the surface skin. It is very difficult to remove. Water or tap water wash cannot remove the coal tar, and if you try to remove it physically, that will cause trauma to the skin, because skin will come out with the coal tar. So you should be very, very careful when there is a coal tar patient. Don't use many chemicals roughly on the coal tar. That best thing is the tarpin oil, which is commonly used for your painting.
Yes.
That can cause dissolution of the coal tar. If it is a small area, sometimes the neosporin cream, the
Yes, sir.
neosporin cream base or neosporin ointment, the chemical, that is the material which carries the antibiotics, that has some dissolving effect. That can work, but we have used in our postgraduate days and also later that is tarpin oil that works very nicely. Okay, so that should be mentioned. And analgesia you have mentioned, that is required.
Opioid.
What opioids, alkaloids. But one thing you should also mention in your presentation, for dressing, not only the medicine, analgesics, but also anesthesia. Sometimes you may have to take the patient to the OT for dressing, because a analgesia IV or the IM, always it is preferable IV, it may not be sufficient to relieve the pain. The general anesthesia may be required for the your management of dressing. And biological dressing, biological membrane you have mentioned. Different membranes, biological membranes which are theoretically described in the books are not routinely practiced.
Yes, sir.
In our third world countries and India, in many centers, which biological membrane is commonly used?
Placenta.
Yes, amniotic membrane of the patient.
Amniotic.
Till now, in many centers, you have probably not mentioned in your presentation, till now, in many centers, the amniotic membrane is used for the burn wound dressing. Okay, these things I like to mention, and Professor Saha will add more and more. Professor
Okay.
Saha, please.
Okay, as Dr. Maiti has said, don't write a paragraph in your slide.
Yes, sir.
You are
Sorry.
allowed to write only bullet and the point, and then you just describing. That is one. Second is, you talk of pre-hospital management. That is a very important aspect of burn management. And now you find there is mass casualties. You have a building fire, you have a terrorist violence, you have maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 burn victim. So there is a term called triage.
Triage, yes, sir.
Yeah. So in pre-hospital management, you should triage the patient. That means you have to triage the patient and select patients who are
Which are-
salvageable. You find a patient who is having 100% burn, patient is having flame burn, patient is having a gross inhalation injury, and another patient having around a 50-60% burn, the triage should say that that second patient should get priority for
Yes,
shifting to the
right.
hospital. So that is one. Triaging the patient. Second is in immediate management, in pre-hospital care, you will not go into depth of the management. The pre-hospital care for burn patient is just you take the patient out from the fire, start a IV line, maintain a airway, and then shift. So less time to be spent in the pre-hospital care. Second is, I expected that you should have gone little more about the fluid management. We know for ages that there are some formulas, Parkland and other rations. But of late, you'll find in literature that there has been a lot of discussions regarding these fixed formulas. And it is said that if you use a Parkland formula, they have shown that you are sometimes over
Yeah,
resuscitating the
over
patient.
time.
So
Overreact.
that is a point for discussion, because for MBBS fine, for postgrad level, I expected that you should go into these points, that there are newer ways to
Yes, sir.
plan fluid therapy. It's not only a fixed formula you calculate and then allocate this patient for next 36 hours.
Yes, sir.
So this should be a dynamic fluid therapy where you calculate the patient's parameters. You start with the fluid challenge and then you go on observing the patient. Basically,
As per that,
basically the prime monitoring is urine output and the vitals. And based on that, you can always, you have a IV line, you can always manipulate how much to give in a particular hour. And then if you go for the nutritional management, that is a very important aspect of burn management.
yes, sir.
And the best route for nutrition management is in the burn patient is enteral nutrition.
Yes, sir.
Either you go by a oral
NG.
feeding or you pass a nasogastric tube or
Nasogastric.
nasogenital tube. So that is a very important part. Second is in immediate management. In immediate management, once the patient is received, we don't do much about the burn wounds. The primary management as under the immediate management is resuscitating the patient, and the concept is just cover the burn wound with a sterile sheet to prevent contamination. Because if you want to manage a burn wound at the same time of arrival, the shock may get aggravated because of pain and the other factors you inside while taking care of burn wounds. Okay, so these are the important areas you should touch, because in postgraduate level seminar you should talk of some recent advances in that particular areas of management. Okay.
One common question I may ask Rehan, what you do, how do you manage the blisters? In second degree burns, the blister is very common. How do you manage the blisters? Blisters may be of different sizes.
Antimicrobial dressing, sir.
Huh?
Antimicrobial dressing, sir.
No, antimicrobial, that is dressing for the burns in general. But there are blisters with fluids, serum inside the
Yes, sir.
membrane. What will you do with those blisters? If you know the answer, you tell. Otherwise,
I don't know.
remember, if the blisters are there, there is potential chance of infection of those blisters. The serum within the blister may convert into pus. But the general principle is that if the blisters are very small, for example 2 centimeter or 3 centimeter like that, you can keep the blister and let it rupture spontaneously or let the fluid get absorbed later. But for the big blisters of significant size, obviously they are going to be infected. You make a drainage of those blisters either by puncture for moderate size blister. If it is very big size, make the deroofing of the blisters, so that deroofing will cause the escape of the fluid, and the thin membrane of the blister may act as a dressing for the underlying wound. Okay, that is another thing you must remember, that interdepartmental contact, interdepartmental reference is sometimes necessary for the burns patient. That is sometimes very, very important, not only for the patient management point, but also medical legal point. For example, in the burns in the area of the eyes, burns in
Ophthalmic department.
yes, burns in the areas of the external ear, you may have referred to the patient to the, or the nose, you may have to refer the patient to the plastic surgery department and the ophthalmology department. Okay, and also for pregnancy, you should refer the patient
Right.
to the gynae department. That is also very important. You should always keep in mind. Okay, thank you. Let us proceed to next.
Rian, how
Yes,
do you diagnose inhalational burn injury?
So we'll make.
Because
so we can-
if you have a major burn injury, one should always suspect there might be inhalational injury. How do you diagnose?
So patient
Yes,
will
sir.
speak hoarseness in the voice will be there.
Yes, one. What else? Hoarseness is one.
So this is one. Then other things are the patient will cough black sputum, and
Yes.
so we can also do direct laryngoscopy also.
Yes, talk of symptoms. Patient will have some symptoms, maybe alteration of voice, may have respiratory distress, may have cough out the carbonaceous particles, and then the diagnostic point is by a laryngoscopy or by a bronchoscopy. And then once you have the initial burn injury, what is the prime management in a patient who has got a major burn and along with that patient's initial injury?
So we'll first we'll try to do intubation
Yes.
as soon as possible, and
Yes,
if it fails,
yes.
then we'll
That
do
is that is a prime management in patient having inertial injury. We should go for early intubation,
early intubation.
because afterwards patient may develop edema and it is very difficult to intubate the patient, and in that cases we may need to do a cricothyrotomy or even a tracheostomy.
Okay.
So early intubation is the prime management for patient having major inertial injuries. Okay. I think you can pass on to the last topic. After the primary management, then the most important part for burn management is the management of the burn wounds primarily, and the complications of the burns, which are the important factors for the outcome following burn injury. Dr. Onkar Nath is a first year DNB PGT at MR Bangur Hospital. Will take us through definitive management of burn.
Good morning, sir, seniors, and my dear friends. Myself, Dr. Onkar Nath, GNB PGT first year, MR Bangur Hospital. Will present seminar on burn management. As previous speakers already discussed about the immediate resuscitative procedure and steps, I will stick my discussion on the definitive management. Begin with the hospital care. First, admit the patient, maintain airway breathing and circulation, and if required, do emergency endotracheal intubation. Then assess the percentage, degree, and type of burn, and sedate the patient and give proper analgesia. Now, coming to the local management, this part has already been discussed by the previous speakers. Do regular dressing under general anesthesia. Dressing could be done by various dressing material like hydrochlorides, paraffin gauze, plastic film, biological dressing like amniotic membrane or synthetic biomembrane. Then there is open method of dressing, which is the exposure technique commonly used in the burn of face, head, and neck, in which we apply silver sulfide iodine without any dressing. Then there is closed method, in which there is dressing is done to soothe and to protect the wound, to reduce the pain as an absorbent. Then tangential excision of the burn wound with skin grafting is done in patient with burn. In patient, if the burn is less than 25%, if the burn is less than 25% within 48 hours, it is tangential saving usually done in deep dermal burn. In case of burn of head and neck, exposure technique is advised, and slough excision is done regularly. Now, coming to the topical treatment, we have 1% silver sulfatizing, 0.5% silver nitrate, mefenide acetate, and silver sulfatizing and cerium nitrate combination. This topical antimicrobials is used mainly for full thickness and deep dermal burn. And for superficial burn, we use simple dressing. Silver, this topic is already been discussed, so I will not go in details. Silver sulfatizing cream, it has broad spectrum anaphylaxis. It doesn't cause pain, and it particularly effective against Pseudomonas and MRSA. Now, 0.5% silver nitrate solution. It has antiseptic properties. It has anti-pseudomonal effect. It needs to be changed every 2 to 4 hours, and it stains burnt area. Mefenide acetate cream, 5%. It is painful to apply and can cause metabolic acidosis. It has good anti-pseudomonal effect. Now, silver sulfatizing and the cerium nitrate combination. Cerium nitrate mainly forms a sterile scar and boosts cell-mediated immunity. It is useful dressing. It is useful burn dressing, especially for full thickness burn. Now, coming to the synthetic dressing in burn wound, we have Vaseline impregnated gauze dressing, which prevent stiffness of a scar. And there is hydrochloride dressing, that is deodor. It provides moist environment and help in the proper epithelialization. It is useful in mixed deep burn, but it should be changed every 3 to 5 days. Then we have Opsite, which is inexpensive. It causes less pain, but it doesn't have any antimicrobial effect. Now there is Mefix or Fixamol. It is a permeable wound dressing. It allows wound to dry and avoid the problem of wound adhering to the sheets and the clothes. Mepital, it is fenestrated silicone sheet. Then we have Integra, which provide complete wound closure and have antimicrobial properties. Then synthetic dressing like BioBrain, it provides wound barrier, gets adherent to the wound, acting as barrier without any pain, but it doesn't have any antimicrobial effect. Transite, it provides wound barrier, it decreases pain and accelerate wound healing, but it has no antimicrobial properties. Now come to the biologic dressing. It is used to cover the wound temporarily as a barrier. It has some immunologic function, but it must be removed or allowed to swell. Later wound is covered with auto skin graft. It is biologic dressing is used mainly for massive burn injury, more than 50% of the total burn surface area. If burn is more than 50%. But problem with the biologic dressing is that it can cause transmission of the viral disease. Biological dressing, like example is xenograft, which is derived from the pig skin, and allograft derived from cadaveric skin or homograft. Now coming to the wound coverage. In first degree burn, there no dressing is required. It could be treated with topical agent to decrease pain and keep the skin moist. In case of second degree superficial burn, daily dressing is done with topical. Daily dressing could be done with topical antibiotics, cotton gauze, and elastic wrap. Alternatively, we can treat with temporary biologic or synthetic dressing to close the wound. In case of deep second and third degree burn, treatment is excision and the grafting. Now, once after dressing, once the burn area granulate, will in 3 weeks usually split skin grafting is done. In case of wider burn area, mesh split skin graft is used. And if there is a scar, then sclerotomy is done to prevent compression of vessels. If there's burn in the area like face and ear, then full thickness graft or flap is used. Now coming to the additional aspect of treating the burn patient, analgesia. In acute case, it's more if there is superficial burn, then we use simple oral analgesia, that is paracetamol and NSAIDs. In case of large burn, intravenous opioids is used. IM injection is not given in acute burn over 10% of total burn surface area, because absorption is unpredictable and dangerous. In subacute case, if patient comes with the large burn, then continuous analgesia is required. Begin with the infusion and continue with oral tablet, that is morphine. Powerful analgesia is required before the dressing change. Now come to the sclerotomy. If the patient has circumferential full thickness burn to the limb, then incising the whole length of full thickness burn in mid-axial plane. It can cause large amount of blood loss. So, key features of sclerotomy placement. If circumferential full thickness scar in the upper limb, then mid-axial sclerotomy is done, anterior to elbow medially to avoid ulnar. In case of hand, sclerotomy is placed in midline in the digits. In case of lower limb, it is in the mid-axial, posterior to ankle, medially to avoid the saphenous vein. And in case of chest, sclerotomy is done down the chest, lateral to the nipple, across the chest, below the clavicle, and across the chest at the level of the face sternum. General rules extend the wound beyond the deep burn, diathermy in insignificant vessels, and apply hemostatic dressing and elevate the lymph post-operatively. Now, coming to the monitoring and control of infection. Burn patients are mainly immunocompromised. So if there is rise of WBC count, thrombocytosis, hypothermia, then it is a warning symptoms of infection. In this case, it could be controlled and controlled by proper hand washing and antibiotics coverage. Physiotherapy. All burn cause swelling, especially burn to the hand. So elevation, splinted, and exercise reduce swelling and improve the final outcomes. Physiotherapy should be started on day 1. It reduces joint contracture. If there is burn injury to the knee, then the knee are best splinted in extension. If in the axilla, then it should be splinted in the abduction. Hand must be splinted in position of function after grafting. Now coming to energy balance and nutrition in case of burn patient. Any adult with burn of more than 15% of total burn surface area. In case of children, more than 10% of total burn surface area, there is increased nutritional requirement. All patients with burn more than 20% of total burn surface area require nasogastric tube. Feeding should start within 6 hours of injury to reduce gut mucosal damage in case of burn. Now, these are the various formula for you for energy for calculating energy requirements. First is the Curry formula. If a patient age is between 16 to 59 years of age, then to calculate energy requirement, we have 25 into weight plus 14 to total body surface area. If age is more than 60 years, then formula is 20 into weight plus 65 into total body surface area. Then there is Sutherland formula. In case of children, it is 60 kilocalorie per kg plus 35 kilocalorie into percentage total body surface area. And in adult, formula is 20 kilocalorie per kg plus 70 kilocalorie into percentage total body surface area. Then we have Davies formula. For children, it is 3 gram per kg plus 1 gram into percentage total body surface area.
This is probably protein. This is probably for protein.
In adult, it is 1 gram per kg plus 3 gram into percentage total body surface area. Now coming to the surgery. If in any deep partial thickness burn and full thickness burn, surgery is required, except if the burn area is less than 4 centimeters square. If large excision is required, then arterial line and CVP monitoring is required. In any case of burn excision, we give subcutaneous injection of dilute solution of adrenaline, that is 1:10 lakh or 1:5 lakh for controlling blood loss. Deep dermal burn need tangential saving, in which we remove top layer of dead dermis until punctate bleeding is observed. Full thickness burn require full thickness excision of the skin, and after excision, skin graft should be applied immediately. In very large burn, use of synthetic dermis or homograft provide temporary stable coverage and reduce burn load on the patient. Now coming to the delayed reconstruction and scar management. It is common for full thickness burn. In the early healing period, acute contracture around the eye. If there is acute contracture around the eye, then it needs particular attention. Eyelid must be grafted at the first sign of difficulty in closing the eyelids. Eyelid grafting must be done before the patient has any symptom of exposure keratitis. Other areas that require early intervention are any contracture causing significant loss of range of movement of a joint. Z-plasty and transposition flap are useful in single band and wider band of scarring. If we have circumferential or very broad areas of scarring, then incision and replacement with tissue is done. Best tissue for replacement is from either a full thickness graft or vascularized tissue as in a flap. In hypertrophy of scar, pressure garments is used for 6 to 18 months. Intralesional steroid and silicone patch can speed scar maturation. And in one patient complain of itching and dermatitis, then pharmacological treatment. Contracture in burn. Contracture can occur anywhere. More common wherein flexibility and mobility is present, like along the joints, eyelids, cheek, lips, neck, elbow, knee, etc. Now, treatment. Release of contracture surgically and use of a skin graft or JAD plastic for or different flaps. Proper physiotherapy and rehabilitation is essential. Pressure garments to prevent hypertrophic scar, and in case of itching, we can use aloe vera, antihistamines, and moisturizing creams. Complication of burn contracture. Complication could be ectropion of eyelid, causing keratitis and corneal ulcer, disfigurement in the face, narrowing of mouth, that is microstomia, contracture in the neck, causing restricted neck movements, disability and non-functioning of joints due to contracture, hypertrophic scar, and keloid formation. Now coming to the minor wound. First, blister. Whether to remove blister or leave it intact, it is a matter of debate. But as already told by sir, if a blister is superficial, then if blister is small, then we can keep it intact and give dressing. And if it is deep, then we have to drain the blister fluids and manage accordingly. Blister fluid suppress immune function. It slows down chemotaxis and intracellular killing, and it is a growth medium for bacteria. And leaving blister intact forms a sterile stratum spongiosum, but leaving ruptured blister is not advisable at all. Now we are in topical agent. We can, in case of superficial or partial thickness burn, dressing with non-adherent material like Vaseline impregnated gauze or Mepital are sufficient. Dressing left in place for 5 days and should heal in 7 to 10 days. Most commonly used topical agent is 1% silver sulfide hygiene, but it should be avoided in pregnant, nursing mothers, and infants of less than 2 months of age. Aim of dressing is to protect and decrease wound pain. Other dressing material for minor wound is BioBrain, but it should be used for fresh wound of less than 24 hours. Wound of less than 24 hours. And if wound area show capillary bleeding and refill, then only BioBrain is used. And it should be applied to the wound after removal of all debris. Hydrocolloid dressing. It can be kept in place for 48 to 72 hours. It provides moist environment and help in reepithelialization. Burn should heal within being managed should heal within 3 weeks. If there is no sign of reepithelialization, then debridement and grafting is required. Now, infection in burn, it should be tackled aggressively, managed using combination of topical and systemic agent, and debridement and skin grafting could be considered if not tackled with topical and systemic agent. Now, coming to the electric injury, we have low tension injury if voltage is less than 1000 volt. If it is less than 1000 volt, it not usually cause significant myocardial damage. And in high tension injury, it is more than 1000 volt. And affected limb can develop compartment syndrome, migraine, can cause myoglobinuria and renal dysfunction. So we have to resuscitate the patient, assess the assessment of the burn. So we have to assess the burn, and if there is severe acidosis, then bolus of bicarbonates to be given. Prevention of renal failure by hydration, dialysis, alkalization of urine, extensive fasciotomy in case of compartment syndrome, and debridement, infection control, and amputation in case of severe injury. Now we have chemical burn. Chemical burn has 2 aspects, that is physical Already told my
Discuss.
previous speakers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Omkar. You have presented your part very nicely and very elaborately. You have covered almost everything, but some points I like to mention. For example, when you are managing a patient, you see what are the areas and you should do something for the prevention of more complication. For example, if the patient is having the finger rings or the bangles, they may be the cause for more and more constriction. So at the time before the development of edema, you should remove those things. Otherwise, the constricting effect will be there. And in the management of eyelids burn, you have rightly mentioned the early skin grafting is needed. But sometimes the skin grafting may not be possible because of many circumstances, and the simple surgery of tarsorrhaphy. Tarsorrhaphy you have not mentioned, but that is a popular operation still being practiced widely for a temporary measure for the protection of the eyes. We should mention also that operation. And a special care is to be taken for the perineal burns. You see, the perineal burns is only 1% of the whole or percent of the burn, but the effect or the delayed effect caused to the perineum, to the genital tract as well as to the urinary tract may be so grievous that it can cause a severe physical as well as the social problem. So for the protection of the perineum is very, very important. Vibrant dressing and other dressing you have mentioned, those are very costly, but their importance is mainly for the first degree and the early or superficial second degree burns. For the others, they are not so much popular and they are not so much cost effective. And can you tell us something about the close dressing? That is very important for the small areas of the burns and for the early degree or the areas of the burns where there is no vital organs. What is the main technique for the close dressing for the limbs? Can you tell me few words?
Close treatment.
Close
What is the principle of close treatment? One is expose early open, and then other
you
apply.
have said something, but I want more.
Yes. Close dressing, sir, we apply topical antibiotic and cover them.
No, one thing.
And what are the layers?
Antibiotic is not so important. Close dressing is usually applied when the patient presents very early. At that stage, the wound may be sterile. Only normal saline dressing may be sufficient, and your gelonate or other things impregnated with microbial agents, they are sufficient, more than sufficient, instead of adding too much microbial ointment or creams on the wound. You avoid those things, but important thing is that you apply the dressing, and that should be very bulky, containing adequate amount of gauze piece and cotton, and should be properly bandaging with optimum pressure, so that the serum, if it is percolated, that will be properly absorbed by the dressing. And don't do the too frequent change of dressing. Keep the dressing for about 5 days, 5 or 6 days, and observe the wound. If you see there is soiling of the dressing by the serum, you can add more cotton and apply a bandage over it. You apply more cotton over the previous dressing and apply a bandage over it. You need the change of dressing only there is offensive smell, and if there is change in color of the discharge, instead of being a clear serous fluid, if showing the signs of pseudomonas in the change of color, or if you see pus, you have to change it early. Otherwise, keep it for 5 to 7 days. Okay, that thing should be remembered, and that gives an excellent result. And if you remove the dressing after 5 or 7 days, we practiced in several cases. And another thing, when you are managing a burn patient, almost everywhere when a burn patient is managed in a special burn unit, which is usually managed by the plastic surgeon, the care is little more better, obviously, for in a general surgical department where the ward is already burdened, where the ward with burn patient is crowded. Okay, so along with the management of the patient's wound, you should also take care about the room temperature, particularly in the winter season. You look and you discuss with the sister or the administrator whether that room where the burn patient are staying is properly ventilated or not, whether the cold wind is coming in through without any your glass in the window. Those things, little things, gives a good benefit to the patient, particularly when many patients with burns are exposed, kept exposed. Then the cold wind can cause more trauma. And another thing, in a burn unit, to protect the patient's wound, the surgeons or the postgraduate students or the students should enter with full aseptic precaution. They should wear the mask, they should change the shoes, and they should touch the patient with sterile hand or with a sterile gloves. Otherwise, the chance of infection will be more. And Professor Makulal Saha will also agree with me. Whenever there is a construction of new burn unit in a hospital or change in the ward in a new hospital building, always the provision should be made for the good bathtub and the showers, hand showers and the overhead showers for proper bath of the patient, so that with the bath and the debris which is collected on the wounds should be made clean. So bath arrangement with the bathtub and the showers should be there. That should be also taken care of. And these things I'd like to mention. Professor Saha, you can add more.
Yeah. We have a good discussion. And one important point is, what are the indications for admitting a burn patient in ICU? So not all patients are in ICU. One is, you don't have burns units in all the hospitals. Most of the burn patients need to be treated in a general surgical unit. And then there are some specific indications for taking care of the patient in a burn intensive care unit. What are the prime indications?
There is burn injury to the face, perineum.
First is the extent of burn. Burn more than 20% or burn more than 50% is a burn which is more critical and needs to be in a good setup. Second is
Site of burn,
facial burns,
facial burns,
facial burn, inhalation injuries, and the patient who has got other comorbidities. Patient having other comorbidities where the management may be altered depending on the patient other comorbidities. Okay, so these are the few indications for treating patient in intensive care unit. So we have extended the time. Thank you, Dr. Maiti.
One thing, Dr.
Yeah.
Makulal Saha,
Yeah.
actually the Eurocup and the Copa America is going on.
Yeah.
But these facts are just making me recall a fact during the World Cup when we were the postgraduates. One
Yeah.
day we came to know that Muha Rai Chaudhary, the famous film actress of Dadar Kirti, suffered from third-degree burn. She was admitted in the IPGMR hospital. It was burn was about 60%, and she could not be made survive. And another very famous film actress of South, Sukumari, she also had a burn injury, and from the burn injury we lost her. So these things happen. So accidental or suicidal burns, this should be noted of. And burn patient is particularly, we see more and more cases in the winter season in the rural area where still the lanterns or the lamps, open lamps are being used. So those lamps should be kept away from the patient, particularly the children. But when the mosquito nets and other winter clothes are being used in more in amount, particularly in those times, we have seen the burn patients are admitted much more during the winter season. And particularly the chemical burns, we should remember. And chemical is sometimes used to make assault on the ladies particularly and the children. And that chemical burn causes most of the injuries if it is by assault, that is on the face areas in the region of the eyes. We have seen, Dr. Sahaj and many of us the experience, we have seen many ladies have lost their eyes because of the assault by the chemicals. So these things should be remembered, and those patients should be managed as early as possible to save and protect their eyes and important parts. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sai.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the presenters, Omkar, Nitesh and Rewan, for beautiful presentation and good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the participants, all other students.
Thank you.